Well, good morning, guys, once again. And here we are at the Mood House, and we're looking at what is a man, and we're in week 6 of that study. And again, the idea being that before putting Jacob's life away, I'd like to summarize the key points and look at his life in regard to, or in relation to, a much larger framework as depicted on this slide. And this is something that I've developed. It's not original with me, although there are aspects of it that are original, but that doesn't make any difference. That life in our journey as men is really can be divided into 2 major sections: the first half of life and the second half of life. And we're going to work our way through this. We've done 6 weeks, and we're just wrapping up this section here this morning. I'm going to just talk a very short time this morning, and then we're going to do something that I think is a treat, although as a group we'll decide that after we go through this process. So. But it's something that it's a tool that I've used in the past, not a lot. It's I think a really fun thing to do in a group. It's a group activity, and so we'll just see how it goes. So I resurrected this within the last week and kind of relearned how to use the tool, and so we'll have some fun with that. But before we do that, we've looked at this, Jacob's first half of life. What we have decided, or what I've tried to express, is that he shows more of a healthy aspect of what a young man's journey looks like, more true to norm, where he's got good family roots. He made some serious mistakes, just like you and I make mistakes. But he developed and he grew, and he had the components in his life, a sense of inclusion, a sense of purpose, and a sense of who he is. And I'm depicting that more of a normal, healthy process as the goal of this first half of life is to develop what I call the skewed me. Now, if you think about, I'm sure you know of a person in your mind where someone says he's just trying to find himself. And that's usually a younger person, teenager, so forth. He's going through some sort of difficult time, and he's trying to find himself. That's what we're talking about. Well, at age 18, 20, even 30, how well do we know ourselves? Knowing ourselves is a lifetime journey. And I think we kind of know who we are, but it's skewed in the sense of that it's not truly who we are. And my whole belief of spirituality is an identity has to be created, which is this, in order to die. Something has to be created in order for it to die. And that, of course, takes us into the teaching of Jesus. He who finds himself or his life shall lose it. He who loses his life shall find it. That's how I frame spirituality, is that there's got to be an identity in order for it to die in the later processes of life. So, in contrast to that, we looked at Esau, who really had a rough beginning. A lot of these components were not part of his life. He had a deep deficit to overcome. But as we looked at last week, an amazing thing happened in this man's life, although the scriptures are silent about that, of how that happened. But later on in life, he was the one who brought reconciliation into the relationship and was able to extend forgiveness. I call his model as the know me. He was the angry young man who was out to kill his brother. But yet, there was this gap of time, and we had a lot of discussion about that. But yet something happened in his life in order to bring him back again. And as an older man, when Jacob was trying to give him all these gifts to appease his anger, he says, "No, brother, I've got plenty." You know, he was working. He had overcome that deficit, that deep depression in his life, in his wound, and he was able to overcome that. And at a stage in life much later, I've got plenty. You know, that he felt blessed, and he was able to extend forgiveness. So we've looked at a lot of terms over the last several 6 weeks. We've been looking at, or 5 weeks rather. So over the last few weeks, we've briefly examined several ideas and their corresponding key terms, which are related below, and they all relate to this idea of assent. And there are what we would call negative terms, and there are positive terms. So we've talked about a lot of different things, and I've got some of those, a good bulk of those listed. And I'd like for each of you, now that you can see them, when we go to the next slide, you're not going to be able to see them because the text is too small. So take a moment while I'm talking and jot up to three down. As I review them, just jot them down on a piece of paper. And then when we go to the next slide during this activity, I'll have to call out the number of each one. We'll review it, and then you'll have a thing. You're going to have your phone here. We're going to do something on your phone. So this will be an adventure. We're having an adventure. We're going to use some technology. Yeah. So the first word that I have is sent, and of course, Jacob, as a young man, was sent away from his family in order to marry a woman. He was sent to his brother Laban in Haran. And he had a sense of being sent. He had an idea that someone, his father, had spoken into him, and he was sent. So that we talked about the idea of sent. Deficit. We just talked about that there was a sense of a whole deficit, and this relates in our story to Esau, a hole in his heart. He had a hole in his heart, not being given what his brother had been given, and that creates a wound. So there's a deficit. Power. And again, I'd like for you to think about up to three of these terms that relate most to you when you were in these formative years. Whether, I think in our generation it would be our teen years. I think that's slipping later now, but in our teen years, up through the graduation from high school or college is where we're talking about here in this group. Power. Jacob had a sense of power. He went into Haran and he kind of took matters in his own hands, and he moved the stone away, exuding his own personal power. Skewed me. We've already talked about the skewed me. It's having some sense of who you are as a person at these formative years of life. As you're peaking out in the ascent period of time in your life, is you got an idea of who you are. Know me. That would be large deficit, no idea, very characterized by anger of I have no idea who I am. Humiliation. There is where this would be more event oriented, where you look back in your life and you think, gee, this was a huge event in my life that had tremendous impact on how it shaped me in those years. And, whether we were able to overcome that or not, is kind of up to us, or, well, that's another aside, but there was a deep wound of humiliation. I had that when I was 6 or 8 years old. I've told you that story of humiliating instance with my dad, where he just called out in anger, "You coward, you coward, you coward," and oh boy, that had huge impact on me. Affirmation, getting the affirmation from our dad or mother, from loved ones of, "Boy, son, you do have this quality and that quality," and feeling in a sense affirmed as a young man. On the other hand, inadequate. Probably most of us as men enter into manhood feeling inadequate, like we don't have what it takes. I mean, I think that is very common. So inadequate. Anger would be, of course, tied directly with know me, but and really the question is, how well in touch are we with our anger at this age? We have anger. Those around us know we're angry way before we know we are angry, even aware of that. Inclusion. Did I feel included as a young man, or did I feel constantly excluded? And then I had to work my way into the relationships, primarily peers. Purpose. Did I have a sense of purpose? That would tie in with scent. And again, as you guys are looking at these three terms, there's going to be some, hopefully, I think naturally there would be some that relate to the more positive side and some to the negative side. We're mixed people. Purpose. Safe. Did I feel safe as a young man? And did that really give me a sense of security, working out of a secure relationship, primarily at home, a secure young person really makes a lot better choices. There's less things trying to inform them. That's at least from my observation. Frustration, just general. That would tie in with anger. Frustrated, not able to attain things, not feeling power, never feeling I can overcome. A high degree of that. Excluded, again, that would be the opposite of inclusion. Just always, I had times like this in junior high, trying to work into the cool group, whatever that cool group is, or plenty. The idea that, gee, I had a great childhood. I didn't really have, I had plenty, both. I had a comfortable life, and really, my biggest struggle is where to ride my bike today. Something a little simple. So, idea of plenty. So, what we want to do now is really have this treat as a group that we'll yet determine how that works. But I thought it'd be fun. So I've created, this is we are now online, and this is a poll. We're going to vote using our phones. And as we vote, as you use your text, those of you who can text, and if you don't have a phone that can text, I encourage you to borrow a friend's phone. And I've got it set up so you can respond, I think, up to 6 or 9 times. So the way you do this is, and listen to me before you start doing it. You'll text to 2 is 3, 2. Who you're sending it to is number 37607. That's the phone number that you're texting. 37. You guys, some of you guys are already doing it. And then,
say that phone number again, please.
What's that?
Say the phone number again.
It's 37607. 37607. And I know that's not a phone number, but it's a text. It's a valid text number. And when it shows up on your phone, it'll probably go 37 dash. It'll probably create a dash. 37607. And then that's step 1. And then in the, what's in the message, you type in Michael Haddo, Michael Haddo, that's an O, not a 0, and then 467. And then send that. That's the first step, is to send that. That's going to get you logged in.
Repeat.
And I'm sure,
Shadow.
yeah, it's MICHAEL HADDO, short for Hador, and then the number 467.
No, you had that all in caps.
And you don't have to do it in
It's
text.
not case sensitive.
No, no, correct.
Either way.
No.
Okay.
What's that?
You screen.
Oh. Thanks, Bill. So,
So we send that once we have
yeah,
that in.
and then you're going to get, if you're connected, you'll say, hey, you've joined Pull Everywhere. You'll get a little text back. Yep. Did you get it?
Probably leave. Yep.
Okay. So Art's connected.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Dave. Good, Dave. That's great.
All right.
So let's just give it a minute and see. This is kind of a fun thing. Because what we're going to see here is going to go live once you start voting. It's kind of cool. So
with my old phone, then do I hit reply to be ready to respond?
if you're logged in, you've done the first part I just said, and then you should be pinged back and said you have joined MyCAD or MyCAD's 467. Now, how you vote? Okay, are you guys? Some of you ready to move on to voting?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the second of two stages. And so the way you vote is every one of those key terms is tied to a letter, of which I'll have to read to you because you can't read them. The text is too small. See, they're over here, and they're going to create a bar chart going across. So, so number A, and the way you vote, you can vote one time. You just hit your three selections separated by commas, and then you hit send. And so pick 3, and so A corresponds to sent. A corresponds to sent. B corresponds to power. C corresponds to deficit. D, it corresponds to skewed me. E, as in Ernest, no me. Well, see, you guys are already doing it. Anger, good. Somebody already voted. Anger is F. Humiliation is G. Affirmation is H. In fact, yeah, if you guys want to get up here to see it, you can. That's fine. Affirmation is H. Powerless is I. Inclusion is J. Purpose is K. Safe is L. Frustrated is M. N is excluded, and O is plenty.
Wasn't there an inadequate? Did I make up my own word in there somewhere?
Inadequate would be,
I thought there was one there. Maybe I missed it.
you know, Jeff, I may have mistakenly not, I may have made a mistake, but let's just, yeah.
Okay, I'll
But-
pick a different word.
Yeah, just pick a different word. On the list I had inadequate, I did.
You did.
And I didn't somehow get it transferred over to here.
Yeah, well, that was me, inadequate.
Yeah, I want you to pick out up to 3 of those terms, and you see how it's kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, here we go.
And just a comma between the letters, no space.
No space.
No space,
spaces.
just commas, yep.
And you need a comma after your third letter?
I did it both ways and it worked.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the last one? Last one is plenty.
You gotta pull it over, make it sort of regular, just for sending messages.
Oh, there it was, you had it.
Oh, is it?
Get that in the standard,
That's your letters of comment.
okay.
Have you voted?
I'll let you guys vote, and then,
So did it not line up again?
Carl, you're hogging the street.
This is A. So did these line up? They line up that way, so A, B, C, D down. I didn't know until I saw Carl, so I didn't join until 10. I noticed these are in line.
So how do we get on the text again? I'm
What
not-
do you mean?
The way that you read them.
I don't know. No, because I think I moved them around.
Okay.
So I do a Michael Hanno, and then what do I do? Where do I put the 376?
Okay, 2, no, you got, can I?
Yes, sure. Oh, you do that one first.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you put the text message on. I always have to go to the tab.
It took me. I'm kind of doing this as an experiment. No, we should get a text back.
We have an inclusion problem here.
Yep. See, now you've
Yeah, we
joined.
have an inclusion problem.
Now, now,
I think so, I just sent each one of them separately.
okay, so now you vote
No, you put
with
my
the
numbers
letters,
down.
with
Okay.
your letters.
Oh, my letters.
And separated
It's kind of like American.
with your letters, not numbers,
How do you separate your letters?
comma.
Comma, okay.
Like,
Great.
so pick your 3 and then just separate it with comma.
Okay.
Okay, Michael. And you'll see it, Tassi, as soon as you hit send, you'll see it change.
Okay.
Here, 37607.
Oops. Died again. Oh.
Great, right?
We're thinking less of me. I'm just trying to help you out. Also, my granddaughter.
And then 4.
No, you can't hold it.
Heard about people like you.
Now you should get a thing that says, you've joined.
You're not an LBJ's congressional district.
Now you use, put in your 3 letters.
Rotary and all these different things. Hey, Steve, did you
No, I wrote down the words and then I just.
So how many of you have voted? I just want to get,
What's that?
how many of you have voted?
Some of us are excluded.
Yeah, we're not on the team.
Not on the team.
I'll go home with
You didn't vote, Michael?
So, I'm not sure, what, we're supposed to pick 3?
He's in Adequate. He's in Adequate.
But I have to go home and do it with my wife.
Yeah, 3 and put a
Well, you
comma.
can use another phone. You could use Steve's phone.
You go grab some letters up there and I'll vote for you.
Well, Carl,
There you
have to
go.
write letters because it's.
And so, Alan, if you don't want to do that's fine, but if you want to use somebody else's phone, they
I
can
mean, we're
just.
just getting a number, we're not putting names.
Because it's totally anonymous.
Yeah.
He wants to know if it's use one of the terms.
You don't know who you are and what you said. and then
Yeah,
you don't know
you
why.
can do that. Yeah, do that.
Nothing is safe.
You what?
I did.
But you can.
I don't know how many votes have been.
Yeah, this is way cool.
It is.
Yeah, it's cool, yeah.
Can we
It's, you know,
evaluate?
this is kind of an experiment.
What's the blank one up there?
Anger.
Anger.
None of us were angry.
None of us were angry.
No, how about denial? Is there denial up there?
11 have voted.
None of us were looking way to get a vote.
Total results 33, so 11 have
If you could do a
voted.
thing after each time you teaching, we can evaluate your presentation.
Have any of you ever done one of these polls, online polls?
Not like this, no.
Usually what they do in the older day, they gave you a clicker, and you had to have a clicker, and then you'd vote, but
It's pretty cool tool. What's it called?
it's called Poll Everywhere. And I've got the free version, and it's it's limited to the number of responses, which for a small group is fine, but it's got. I just wanted to go through this kind of as an experiment to see. I think we had real success. In 15 minutes, you went from 0 to voting, and that's realistic.
Yeah, 33 years old, so 11 to vote.
High intelligence.
Huh?
High intelligence.
Well, I so I'll save this. Oh, we still got some voting coming in.
Affirmation.
The West Coast is not, has not been.
So Mike, did you get
I sent
your
mine-
questions answered?
Yeah, and you can send it as a string, a comma separated string?
Yeah.
With those spaces.
They don't have to be capitalized, do they?
I want to make sure everybody
Does
got.
it care about capitalization?
No, I don't think so. No.
Doesn't.
No, and the last comma, I've done it both ways. So Steve, did you help Everett?
Yeah, I'm getting there, that's why you're getting these little chimes.
You could have just voted another, you could have just done another text to that same thing.
I should have.
Can I vote for you, Steve?
Can we vote twice?
And then you can vote again.
Well-
And when you're done, now, at some point, when you guys are finished, in the text box, you're still connected to that string. Just write the word leave, L-E-A-V, and that means you're done. Now, if you don't do that, it's not a big problem. It'll time out. But
So what, Professor, what's your assessment of us?
I don't know. Maybe we'll look at it next week.
Okay.
I would like to know the group. What do you think?
Can you say that?
Yeah, I'm going to save it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to know what you guys. We got 5 minutes, so I'd like to know what.
I mean, there's all the data process.
Negatives and positives and negatives in my life.
No, sentence there. Oh, F.
F is anger. There's no angry men in this room. I think that's true.
So you have to do, ours, we have to do it.
One of the biggies.
I couldn't hear you.
One of the biggies.
Didn't work.
All right.
Somebody only responded once.
I'll put this on a bigger slide next week. We can review it. It'll be kind of fun. So the big ones, Dave Brown asked, what are the big ones as far as this creates a profile for our group. At 15% of the votes, 15% of the votes, there have been 40 responses total. Total result, 40 votes. And that actually that's the total number. So there could have been, it's shut off at 40.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So that's why I may have to purchase the other deal. So how many? Let's see. There's
14 votes. Times
Yeah.
3 is 42.
So,
Yeah.
category exam,
What's that?
what was the category?
Yeah, I haven't got there yet. 15% is affirmation. That as a group, we felt as a young man we received affirmation. We feel affirmed, which is wonderful. And then safe. We felt safe. Now, I guess the question I have, there's several things we could go, but the thing that's in my head is, how much did that reflect the culture of which we were raised in? The being affirmed and safe. Yeah, what do you, Bob, what you're nodding, what do you think?
I think that's right. I think that your cultural context is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
You know, we were most of it, now, with your exception, your father passed away quite when you were young. But most of us had a conventional family with a mom and dad at home. It was rare when I was a kid that, and that in itself, I think within my world, most kids felt safe. Carl.
My question would be, what time period in our life are you wanting us to poll us in, like in high school?
Well, I think I'd mentioned this briefly. In our context, I think we were talking we're talking about our high school, you know, teenage,
Late high school?
graduation from high school and or college. That
Right,
that
that
time
area
period.
there.
Yeah.
But we can remember something that happened young, like you said about what happened to you. That
What?
could be young.
Yeah.
That could be.
Oh yeah. Anytime. I think what Carl is asking is the upper limit.
Oh, upper
Kind of.
limit, okay.
Now I think that age has really slipped. You know, it's probably another 10 plus years later, this ascent period of time. You know, when I was a kid, you either graduated and got a trade or went off to college.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what you did. Yes, Bill.
Well, it's interesting, I never thought of it this way, but I felt safe in a weird way because the draft existed. I didn't want to have to go fight in the military, so I went to college. But if I didn't go to college, I knew somewhere, my direction was made for me. I mean, either I would choose or they would choose. In either case, I would be provided for.
Huh.
But it was all my choice.
And you found safety in that.
Well, only in the fact that I wasn't going to be on, I mean, if you go in the military, you're not on the street.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
have you got a pathway. You go to college, I mean, you at least had enough money to go to college, but your direction was covered somehow.
Right. Yeah. Okay,
Well,
Dave.
all I can tell you is I'm in the wrong group.
Why? Why do you?
Do you feel like you feel excluded?
Exclusion. Where was that one? 8%. So yes.
I
Jeff.
thought it was interesting. Because inadequate disappeared off the chart there. I marked both inclusion and exclusion.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
It
Yeah.
just depended on the setting, and Art and I were talking about it. It could even be the same group of people, but it was a different setting. When I was on a team, I felt very included by my teammates in that athletic setting. But in other social settings with that same group of people, I felt very excluded. You know,
Yeah.
so it was weird that you could have both of those experiences with the same group of people.
You are not aware of this, but there were heads bobbing like this behind you when you were talking, because I think that you stated so clearly the tension that's in many of our lives. Yeah. So I would say overall, home was safe for me. It was, and even though they had some rough spots, but
Yeah, rough spots. Can you say about your dad saying Howard?
Yeah.
You were what, 8 years old at the
yeah.
time?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Wow.
But then, then it was never talked about until, fast forward to I'm 40 years old. It's how long, how long you carry this stuff. Any other comments? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you, the fun level, the informative level, the interesting level, how would you rate this kind of activity?
Can we vote?
Yeah. No, you don't have enough.
Next week.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think? Good? Good? High? Yeah. Was it fun? Enjoyable?
Very good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Then I might.
It was a good way to get a little insight into yourself.
Yeah.
Can I ask Jeff, are you a left seater now?
I am halfway through the program.
Still?
So just a break in training.
Yeah.
Got some more
You're on
stuff.
the way though.
I'm on the way.
So
I have passed 2 of the 4 events.
One seat on the seat.
Jeff came in this morning and gave him a hug and said, "Hi, Jeff. Hi, Captain." He goes, "I'm not a captain yet." And I said, "You're captain in my book."
There you go.
Captain Morgan.
All righty. Well, see, it said poll is full, no longer accepting. So we're not able to get everybody, but I think I may consider this, see what the cost is. This is really a fun little deal. So, all right. Well, thanks for coming. We're a few minutes over, and we'll pick up next week. But I'll make sure we save this. I can save this. So, and alrighty. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the second stage of events.
How we